Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining today's session. My name is Nitin Dabas from Qualia Technik. Other than implementing Business Central in different companies like you all do, we also specialize in building smart apps, configuration-based solutions for Microsoft Dynamics Business Central. And today I'm going to introduce you to one of our most practical tools and flagship Business Central add-on, Business Rules app. This is a way to automate validations, to send automatic messages. You can send automatic emails, data update, and much more without writing any code. I hope some of you have already tried our app, and today I will use this opportunity to explain you a bit more in detail about our app. So here is what we are going to cover in the next 1 hour. First, we will look at why we created business rules and the problem it solves and the opportunity it creates. Then I will explain the engine behind the app, the simple structure of trigger, scenario, condition, and action, and how they work together to create the magic. I will then explain how to use dynamic placeholders like table ID and field ID placeholders, then user ID. Today, there are many placeholders that we use in business rules to make it easy for the users to set up the rules. So we will talk a bit more in detail about placeholders. Then we will directly go into Business Central, where we have created few rules, and we will see them in action, and I will explain the setup behind those rules, where I will show you how to configure rules in real time. With few real world use case scenarios, we will then wrap up this session with a question and answer session where we can discuss your questions, and yeah, whatever questions you have, you are welcome to write it down, and we will discuss all of that in the end. So let's start with the why. In most Business Central projects, enforcing business policies like blocking a record, showing a message, or triggering a notification, sending email, it always requires some development efforts. Regardless of how big or small is a requirement, it always has to go through the whole cycle of change control, which means, let's say there is a demand that business have, they request the change to the partner, then the partner do some designing of that change, then customer approval, then the development happens, then the UAT, and finally the deployment take place and the customer start to use the change that we have done. So it takes lots of time and results in a high implementation cost, this whole cycle. And according to my view, 70% of business needs are never fulfilled because of budget constraints or because of those requirements were needed temporarily. For example, if you want to block something for some new users, then you of course cannot do the development, but still it's a valid business requirement. But because it's of a temporary nature, it is never developed, and businesses live without this. Yeah. So business rules is built to change this scenario, and it empowers functional consultants, super users, or admins to define logic directly into the system using the configuration only. No development, no developers, and no delays. You define and activate a rule, and as and when it's needed, this helps to respond fast to the changing business needs. Yeah. So this is the scenario that business rules take care of. Then let's go into the concept. So the engine behind the business rules app follows a very clean and predictable logic pattern. Every rule follows this pattern: trigger, scenario, condition, and action, right? So the trigger is something, for example, something is changed into the system. That change can trigger a rule. So we can define any field of Business Central as a trigger. That's if some value changes in this particular field of this table, then this rule should be triggered. Then we have scenario. Scenarios are are the conditions that define the scope of a rule, which means the rule will work if all scenarios are valid. So for scenarios, you can define various conditions, and if all of these conditions are true, only then we will say that the rule fits into the scenario defined for it. And only then the next step to check the condition will be executed, right? So uh, now the condition is basically for the actions. So when the actions are performed, before that you can define a condition that, okay, in these all scenarios, if this condition is true, then perform these actions, right? Yeah. So so using this whole structure, we have made easy to for the users to to define the rules, and they do not need any developer or AL efforts to create these rules. Simply, you can define a rule by defining these couple of things. The structure is as follows. The first is trigger, then scenario, condition, and action. A trigger defines the event that initiates the business rule, right? So event, for example, if we are talking about when sales order is released, at that moment we want to do something. So in that scenario, the status field of sales header will become my trigger, right? So or if a user enter quantity in sales line and you want to trigger the rule at that time, then the trigger for your rule should be quantity field in the sales line table. So like that, you can define the trigger. Then the scenario. Scenario actually defines the criteria that must be met before the rule for the rule to proceed to condition check. So condition check will happen when scenarios are. If the condition scenarios criteria is not met, the system skip the rule execution altogether. It will not go and check the condition or perform any rule. Then we have conditions. Now conditions are checked only if all scenario criteria are met. Multiple actions can be defined for each condition, and actions are executed if the criteria defined in the condition are met, right? Then when everything falls within a scenario and the condition that is defined for the actions are correct, then you can set up, you can define what all actions you want to perform. So to define actions, we have a few actions like error message. You can show a error message to the user, or you can show a simple pop-up message to the user. You can ask for a confirmation. So for confirmation, it will display a message to the user, and based on yes or no selection of the user, the actions are performed. By that I mean that in confirmation, you can always say when users say yes, then do this. When users say no, then do this. So for every yes click, you can define different actions, and for every no clicks, you can define different actions. For example, if we say yes, send email. If we say no, then show error, like that. Yeah. Other than email, we have notifications like you always see in Business Central, the pop-up notifications that can perform some actions or show some information to the user. Then we also have URL. URL can be external URL. For example, it can be a URL from SharePoint website, or it can also be a URL from within the Business Central pages, which means that you can use a URL and you can basically redirect user within Business Central. For example, if sales order is released for a customer, then take the user to the customer card. So those things you can do. Or when sales order is released, the user should go to the SharePoint folder where he need to upload some files. So you can automatically pop up these URLs from a Google. Then the next action is assign. In assign action, we can use this action to update values dynamically in fields in Business Central when the rule is executing. For example, if I release the sales order and salesperson code is blank, then using assign action, you can automatically update salesperson field on sales header from the customer table. So you can do it dynamically. Yeah. Then we also have something called custom actions. Now, these custom actions are designed for the developers. Now, here it was all no code, but now it comes to the low code. So, in case of low code, okay, you can create, for example, you want to create a new action that that release that creates a archive of sales order, right? So you can just create a small function in a code unit that normally archives. You can archives the sales order, and then this action will be available in business rules. And you can use this action from various triggers and in various scenarios and so on. For example, you can say if the sales order is released at that time, automatically the archive should happen. So to do that, you can create a small action and use it, or you can create some action. For example, create a comment, add comment on the customer. So you can use that action. For example, when sales order is being released, the comment is updated automatically on the customer. So those kind of custom actions also you can create within business rules and perform that. Now, let's talk about the placeholders. So the placeholders is one of the most powerful parts of the app. With placeholders allows you to reference dynamic values inside your rules. For example, the first one is table field. We call it table field placeholder. So in a bracket, square bracket, you can write a table number and a field number and simply just table number. For example, the quantity field of sales line is field number is 15 and table number is 37. So 37 colon 15 means quantity field of sales line. So you can use these placeholders, just mention the table number and field number, and system will automatically get this value from Business Central, from the related record of Business Central from where the rule was triggered. So these table field placeholders can also have some prefixes like last, minimum, maximum, and sum, which means that if you write last before the placeholder, it will get the last record from the filtered data. If it is minimum, then it will look for what is the minimum value of the filtered record, and it will give you that value. Similarly, maximum, or you can also add all the values from a table of a field, and this placeholder will return the total sum of that field. Other than that, you can also use user ID, today, work date. There is also uh, current date, time, and so on. So there are a few more placeholders that are used. So these are also placeholders that you can use within the business rule to get values on the runtime of business of any rule. So you can use these placeholders in conditions to apply some filters or to reference to any field. You can also use it in messages, text of the message. For example, you want to give some information that a customer number, so just mention the customer number or name of the customer. So customer name is field number 3 of customer table 18. So 18.3 will bring the value of the customer name automatically. So the use of placeholder makes the app a real low-code, no-code app because it simplifies the configuration to such an extent that it makes it possible for functional consultant and key users to create rules themselves. This is the magic behind the business rules. So let's go ahead and now we will go a little bit deep into the system, and we will see some of the rules that we have created. So yeah, let's now move to Business Central and see some rule in action. We'll also explore how easy it is to use placeholders to trigger logic across any field or table. And please feel free to ask questions during the demo or drop them in chat. I will answer them all in the end of the demo. So let's create a sales order for the same customer. Now let's take 50,000 Sachin because we already added the VAT registration number on it. Okay, so we have this customer. Now we will select the item. Okay, here we got another error which says that the item, this item is not authorized to be sold to customer 50,000. So we have created another rule for this validation where we want to we want to restrict sale of some items to a certain customers. Right? So let's check out what is this rule. Go back to the business rules and go to this rule. Okay. So as we've seen that line number 30,000 was responsible for this. And here we have created a rule where we want to restrict sale of certain items to some customers. So my trigger field here, I want to define as the customer number, which is field number 6 of sales line table, right? So because I want to trigger this rule when some customer is when some item is selected in the sales line. So when at that time I want to trigger, so my trigger field will be the number field on the sales line table. Then we define some scenarios. First is that we want to uh, trigger, or we want to run this rule only if someone is trying to enter a item into the sales line. If someone want to enter a resource line, then we do not want to apply this rule, right? So my first scenario here will be that the type should be item in the sales line. Then the second one, I want to check if the item type is inland. Okay, so this is a kind of domestic customer. So for domestic customers, this group of items cannot be sold. So here we define that if the customer posting group is inland, then system will check the item. So it will go and check on item table in item category code if it is scribed. This is a German word for the table. Okay. So if this is the value on the item, then it should show some error because we want to restrict it. And this is the error. Go to details. And here the item this is not authorized to be sold to customer this, right? And using by using the placeholders, we can pull any value from any table of Business Central. And please note that uh, by any table in Business Central, I not only mean the standard table and fields of the standard Business Central, but by that I also mean you can use any table or field of any ISV, let's say LS Retail or any other tool that you're using in Business Central, or your custom fields. So if you created some custom fields, so all the fields of all extensions that are installed in Business Central will be accessible in business rules. Okay. So this was the rule that was responsible for it. So now let's go and select some other item because this is not allowed to be sold. Sales order, and let's select some other item. Okay, so this item, for this item, it's allowed to be, the sale is allowed to this group of customers. So I was able to select the item in the lines. Then I selected the location. Let's enter some quantity. Now let's enter 50. I want to order 50 pieces. 50. Okay. So When you entered 16 here, you have seen that one email is sent automatically. And you can see that there is also a notification on top that Sachin D, this is the name of the user, has ordered this item more than its available stock, right? This is a notification that you got. And again, this is standard Business Central notification, but the first notification is from business rules. And yeah, this is the notification from business rules. And it also sent one email, as you have seen, we have added one message just to show that. So it automatically also sent one email to the warehouse manager informing the manager that that there is the stock is not available, enough stock is not available uh, for this order to be fulfilled, and the warehouse manager is already alerted, and yeah, that's how it is. So let's go and check this rule that we created, which is actually checking the available inventory of the item when quantity is entered in the sales line, and based on certain scenarios, it sent one email automatically, and yeah, and also shows some notification. So let's go and check the rule responsible for this. So as you can see, prevent user to order the item not prevent. Actually, we should have given some error message so that it's not possible. But because we want to show that one email is triggered, so you can't give error message. Yeah, so let's go to the details. Okay, so here we have this rule where, as you have seen, that when I entered quantity in the sales line, the rule was triggered. So obviously the trigger field for me will be the quantity field in sales line, right? Then the first scenario is that I want to check the inventory only if the type is item in the line, because there is no inventory for the resources, right? So here we will have first scenario is that the type should be item, and then we can simply write a condition that if the quantity that is being entered into the sales line, because field number 15 is quantity field of sales line, if it is greater than inventory field on the item card, right? 27 is item and 68 is the inventory field. So here, this is just the interpretation of field that you have specified. So the condition is that quantity in sales line, if it is greater than inventory in item on item card, then do something, do some actions. So as we have seen, we added two actions here, one notification and one email, right? So in notification, we go to the details and see what we have shown. So here you can simply write a message that this user has ordered for this item more than the available stock. So this notification was shown to the user that you have also seen, right? And then one email should be sent. Now let's check the structure of email. I go to details. Now here you can see that this is the layout of the email that will be sent to the warehouse manager. Here you can simply define two CC, who should be in CC and who should be in blank copy, and what should be subject and so on. And as you can see, everywhere you can use the placeholder. For example, I also want to keep the customer or the salesperson in CC. So I can also write, okay, let's say customer 18, hold on, 102. I think 102 is the email ID on the customer card. So when this email will be sent, if I write this in CC, that then it will automatically take the email address from the customer card and keep the customer in CC. So using this, uh, you can dynamically pick up the email addresses at the runtime of the rule. And then we have the subject. Again, you can write anything in the body of the email. You can use different placeholder to bring dynamic values, write your text. You can do all the formatting, color, you can add images, and so on. So this is the email template that you can create easily. There are no setups, as you can see. You are just creating email templates simply like you just write a Outlook email. Only the use of placeholders. By using placeholders, it's you do not need to go through the through lots of setups and all just to add people into the 2 and CC of emails, right? Okay, so I go back, but here you can see we have many fields, and I think because most of you are experienced consultants in Business Central, I can see that your question will be that the inventory that it is showing, it is comparing with from the item card. This should be the inventory available on that particular location that is selected in the item line. You're right. So here, when all the tables are used, as I mentioned that we have to define the link tables. And if I go to link table, okay. So here you can see that I have linked item table with the sales line using the item number. So it will use the same item number, but I have also added the location filter on the item uh, and linked it with the location that is defined in the sales line, right? So using these two filters, when I apply location filter also on the inventory field on item card, which is actually a flow field, this helps us to bring the correct value of inventory from the item for only that location, right? Then we have the user. Now I also want to show the username. So I also use the user setup table, and there I filtered with the current user so that this table always have the correct value. And then I use this in the footer of my email because I want to show the name of the user in the footer that he sent the email, right? So this is one more rule that we created. Now I think we have a few minutes left in the meeting, but I think we started late. If you don't mind, we can discuss a little bit more with this. So let's enter. We already created this. Sachin, let's release the sales order and look at our last rule, and then maybe we can go for questions. Okay, so here we are trying to release the sales order, but we have created a rule that you cannot release the sales order if the salesperson is blank on the sales order, right? So just click OK. So in this case also we have created a, now I selected the sales or salesperson code here, and now it will allow us to release it. Yeah. Let's go to the rule again. Okay, so this is the rule that we created that when we release the sales order, so this is a very simple rule which is triggered from the status field of the sales order. We only want to, in scenario, we define that status should be released because we only want to do this when someone is trying to release the sales order, not when they are reopening it, right? Then in the condition, we simply mention that the salesperson code is blank, then do something. Then we simply show one error message, right? But we also have a chance here that instead of error message, what we want to do is that if salesperson is blank on the sales order, then we can also update it from the customer card, for example. So I go to details, and for this condition, we have error message, but what I want is I don't want to give error when someone is releasing the sales order. I simply want to copy it from the customer. So I will delete this line. Yes. Select here assign action. Create a new one. Assign salesperson. And here I will simply say the salesperson in sales header is 36, 120, no, 43, I think.
Yeah, 43.
And value, I want to pick it up from the customer. What is the field number for customer?
I think
Salesperson?
29.
Okay. And I want to validate it. When I do this, then when this rule will be executed on the runtime, it will update the salesperson on sales header from the customer, right? And select this assign salesperson, and that's it. So by doing this, you have just configured that how to assign values from sales from customer to the sales header. So you can use these rules, and yeah, let me go back and in the final, I think we have already seen a couple of rules working into the system. Now, let me explain a little bit on the brief structure of the app. We have the business rule where this is the set of all the rules that you have created in the business center in our app. Then message, confirmation, error, notification. For all the actions, we have separate masters so that if you want to, for example, you want to show the same error message from different places, you can reuse your master and use it anywhere in different rules. Then we have the rule group, which is very important. Rule group is here you always have one rule group called all user. In all user, you can add rules on the right side. So all of these rules that you add in all user rule group, all of these rules will be applicable on everyone in the company, right? But if you want to apply some rule on specific users, then you can create some more rule groups and assign users. And for example, let's take this. So here you can see that rules on all the users are selected on the left side. So on all of these users, all the rules that are selected on the right sides are applied. Right? So like that, you can design your own rule group and assign different rules on different set of users to control how the rules are assigned and should behave in the company. Okay, so I think that's it from my side. If any one of you have any questions, you are most welcome to ask your questions now.
Hi, Nitin, I have one question actually.
Yeah.
I'll switch my camera as well. Hi.
Yeah, sure.
So my name is Ravi. I'm working from Dubai. So
Yeah.
how the setup of business rule works for a multi-company environment where one environment is having 3-4 companies. Okay.
Yeah. So the business rules are created per company, and we have a setup in business rule where you can test it at one company and you can distribute it to different companies. So you can, for example, where all you want to send rules in integration setup, you can simply list down all your companies where you want to send the rules, test it in one sandbox or any database, and just click on send, select where you want to send it. Then that rule will move there. So in business rules, you can also export and import business rules using configuration packages.
Okay. Okay.
For example, you export because these are just some setups within Business Central. There is nothing outside Business Central that is used in the app. For example, there is no external integration or something. So everything is within Business Central, and all the rules and their logic always lie in a few tables that business rules have.
I understand. And let's say, what if I'm using a Power BI with Business Central, but Power BI is also a app source Power BI, not a by default
Okay.
Business Central Power BI. So
Okay.
how we can have something, because some of the Power BI user is like, some of the users is only using Power BI for seeing reports and seeing purchase and inventory data or ROI data.
Yeah.
So is there any way I can use I can use business rule to trigger any action on Power BI window for or dashboard for them?
See, if some data is changing in Business Central related to anything, then you can
Okay.
trigger it. It's as simple
Okay.
as that. It has to be a table and field within Business Central. For example, we got a requirement that someone want to send one email back to the user, back to the person who sent one order for approval. For example, I sent for approval, someone approved it. When someone approved it, I want to send email back to me. So to do this, even for programming, you need to write code at lots of places and all. But in business rules, you can simply check the approval entries, and there you know that uh, whenever some approval is done, this field is changed to approved. Just write a rule there, and it will send one email.
So
So
this
you have
is
to identify some change in the database.
yeah, create limit approval or anything. The workflow is there. So how does the business rule is better than the workflows? Basically, okay. Apart from the setups, are so many setups we have to do for business rules to be used. Correct. So
I will say that in business rules, your business rules is a very generic, tool that can be used to do anything in Business Central. For example, if you say that I want to show a message, error message, or I want to block user to do something, then you can think about anything and you can do it. But approval workflow is not meant for that, right?
correct.
It is not meant for that, for to create new actions. And also approval workflow is actually approval meant for the approval process and so
Okay.
on. But here you can do many more things.
One last question from my side. Let's say we have our Business Central, but we are using some customized application built on Business Central for our
Mhm.
logistics business. So
Yeah.
this business rule works with that customized app which we have on Business Central, or only
Yeah.
the pure functionality of Business Central?
No, it will work in all the in core functionality of Business Central, plus all the ISVs, plus your own custom fields.
Okay, okay, I understand it.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thanks. Yeah. So I think if you do not have, if anyone do not have any more questions, then I will say I think we can wrap up the meeting, and I will again share my screen for a second just to say thank you, and so that you can note down my email address and so on. Yeah. So I would thank you again for your time and attention. And if you're interested in a personalized session, or if you have some specific use cases, or just want to start building rules, please feel free to reach out to me. On the screen, you can see my email address, our website. So I will be happy to collaborate with you to solve more problems that you face in Business Central. So let's try to make Business Central more easy and simplify to be used by different customers. I thank you all. Thank you very much, and have a nice weekend. And I would like to especially thank you because you all spared some time on the weekend and joined us. Thank you very much.